This podcast does not provide medical nor legal advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
Hello, possums, and welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast where we talk about serious illness, dying, death, and bereavement. I'm Marianne Matzo, a nurse practitioner, and I use my experience from working as a nurse for 45 years to help answer your questions about what happens at the end of life.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete, an actor in New York City, and here to offer an every-person viewpoint to our podcast. We're both here because we believe that the more you know, the better prepared you will be to make difficult end-of-life decisions.
So please relax, get yourself something to eat and drink, and thank you for spending the next hour with Charlie and me for our discussion about vaccinations for adults this fall. In the first half, Charlie talks about the plan to send the former president's DNA into space. In the second half, I'm going to talk about what vaccinations are needed for the fall and when to get them. And in the third half, Charlie has a poem about love. So how are you, Charlie?
Hot, hot, hot. Thank you for sending the heat wave.
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much for sending the...
What, is it hot there?
Oh, baby. Listen, it's... So for this week, and we're speaking of early September, it is... The average temperature is 90. About a 6-7 day sweep of that, not including the humidity. So, yeah, leading up to this, the temperature was really very comfortable. Even the nights were cool. Not now, making up for that lost time now. So, just hot.
Well, I went to let the dog out last night, and at 10 o'clock at night, it was 79 degrees.
Oh, jeez.
And the humidity felt like 100%. It was like you stood out there and there was no air to breathe. You know that feeling?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like we're living in that. Remember that Twilight Zone?
Oh, yes. Lois Nettleton and shoot, who was, yes.
How do you even know what I'm talking about?
I remember it because then at the end, and spoiler alert, of course, this came out in 1960, so if you haven't seen it, so spoiler alert, yeah, at the end, everybody is just like, baking and baking and baking, and at the end, it turns out there's no sun, there's no warmth, and everybody is in reality freezing. So she's been imagining this. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That was a good one.
It was.
I keep thinking about that.
Yeah.
What if all the Twilight Zones come true? What if there's really a hole under the bed that you could fall into?
You mean there's not one in your place?
I used to be so afraid of that as a little kid after I saw that in Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
I was convinced that if I fell between the wall and my bed, that there was a soft spot in the wall, and that I'd go into another dimension.
A dimension of sight, dimension of sound. At the signpost up ahead, the Twilight Zone.
Kids grow up. It's like they don't know how much they frightened us when we were little.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm sure looking at it now, most would like, "What are you, nuts? This is nothing." But at the time, we didn't have computers in our hands, so it's a very different world. But as I got older and over the past several years, did you ever watch much of the Alfred Hitchcock show?
Oh God, yeah.
I don't. You know what? It's much as I love Twilight Zone, there's just something. I love irony, and there's just something about those episodes of Hitchcock.
I love how he'd always say, "Well, and no,
yes,
we have to hear from those deadly sponsors."
Yeah, he'd always make some crack, and I'm surprised they let him get away with it. But I guess it was Hitchcock, though they let him say whatever he wanted. But yes, some of those are just spectacular. but at a different level, like more like adult, like. But still, I mean, just absolutely wonderful.
And speaking of adults.
Yes. We talked in a prior podcast, and please see our show notes for this episode, about sending our cremated remains into space as an alternative to burial. Celestis, which specializes in sending DNA into deep space to join part of a future human colony, is planning their next space mission, the Enterprise flight. Star Trek icons Nichelle Nichols, Jimmy Doohan, Majel and Gene Roddenberry, DeForest Kelley, and a global host of others aboard the first ever Celestis Voyager service deep space mission, the Enterprise flight. But wait, there's more. The DNA of 4 past U.S. presidents will be blasted into deep space as part of a symbolic space burial flight alongside several high-flying names who will all have part of their remains placed in special capsules and sent into solar orbit aboard a United Launch Alliance Vulcan rocket. The DNA from these flights would be used, according to Celestis, as a method of data storage that would tell the story of America and humans, which future civilizations that settle in deep space could use as a biological history book. Alongside all the things we can currently gather from DNA, Celestis hopes that future advances will be able to show the entirety of a person from just their DNA, making small amounts of it a vital information storage method for preserving humanity. Which is why the remains of George Washington, Ronald Reagan, John F. Kennedy, and Dwight D. Eisenhower will join the DNA and cremated remains of the Star Trek talent and be blasted into space. The presidents will be immortalized in pieces of their hair within the capsules, which contained significant amounts of DNA. The flight is scheduled for late 2023. And since...
So now wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute. I have a question.
Sure.
How did they get, like, George Washington's DNA hair for his DNA? How did they get this?
Hang on a second. I don't remember the reason why. Well, no, but it was common. Basically, they just cut off, pieces of President Washington's hair and just kept it.
Who? They being who?
Well, I don't have the exact name, Marianne. Jeez, I mean, how damn old do you think I am? I know part
Does
of...
Does everybody get their hair cut and it's put somewhere? Is this a thing that I don't know
guess
about?
This is my homework assignment. And finding out. Well, no, I mean, but it's common, for people. I mean, it's less common now, but it is coming back where, someone will, cut off, some locks of hair, either as something, for the family. In Washington's case, it was not only for the family, but also because he was Washington, the victorious leader of the American Revolution and then the first president, and rather than become king.
So who has this hair? Where is this hair? Is it
know,
at the Smithsonian? I mean,
it's
is it in a lockbox somewhere?
Oh, pooh. I don't know why I keep thinking the Library of Congress. You know what? Maybe originally it was at the Library of Congress, and then when the Smithsonian came along, it was transferred to the Smithsonian. I am sure there's still some of his ancestors today who have locks of that. But it was a common thing.
So what about all these other? So did they take all of the president's hair samples and they have a file of them?
No, I'm just laughing because I'm thinking, well, they can't do that with Trump because of that wig. But apart from that, gosh, I can't imagine anyone, scissored off locks of the hair of President James Polk. I don't think it was a tradition, Maybe
Well,
I'm
see,
wrong.
that's why Polk's not going to space, because nobody kept his hair.
Yeah, and because they did nothing to prevent the American Civil War. So I don't. You know what? I'm going to say there is, just because that was the thing to do. This is okay. So this is my homework assignment. I'm going to assume hair of every president was kept. That pieces of that was kept. Yes, I'm going to say that with no proof. So I do need to look this up.
So there.
Yeah. How's that for a definitive maybe? Where was I?
Well,
yes.
this is a science-based podcast, so
yes, it is.
We're good to. We want to make sure that we got all our facts straight.
Yes. Huh? What the hell was I talking about? Did I mention about President Eisenhower and the beef soup?
No.
No? Okay, so let's pick up from there, shall we? And since President Eisenhower is heading off to space, we looked up his favorite food to eat. Okay, Marianne looked it up. Those in the know have reported that, quote, beef soup was one of his specialties, and he would leave the soup simmering on the stove in the kitchen for hours, causing much mouth-watering among the kitchen staff. So, try this week's recipe for your next funeral lunch. And while you're doing that, please go to our webpage for this week's recipe for beef soup and additional resources for this program. Listen, your tax-deductible donations are always welcome. And remember, they're tax-deductible so that we can continue to offer you quality program and Marianne's expertise. Thank you in advance for making your donation at www.everyonedies.org. That's every, the number one, dies.org. Marianne?
Thanks, Charlie. So even though it's hot out, welcome to fall.
Oh my God. You're right. It's fall. It feels like it's the middle of July. Yeah, okay, go on.
Yeah. But the leaves are starting to turn colors and the apple trees are in bloom and the fall vaccines are ready. So this is not a discussion about whether we believe in the science of vaccines, but rather the reality that viruses exist and that some of them can kill us. Fortunately, we have vaccines that can help us survive to live to see another spring. Now, what vaccines should we consider? When should we get them? These are the questions on the minds and hearts of mice and men. The cold weather viruses that are of concern are respiratory viruses. So you got to breathe in order to live, and so this is something worth paying attention to. These viruses are especially deadly to people of advanced age or in poor health. It wasn't long ago that we could get our yearly flu shot and be done. But now we have COVID and RSV to consider on our hit parade of vaccines that reduce risks from all major viruses likely to circulate this season. So first, let's chat about RSV, which stands for respiratory syncytial virus. It is a common winter virus that usually causes mild cold-like illnesses, but they can be dangerous for young children and older adults. The federal government has approved the first RSV vaccines for people 60 years and older, and you should get it now. RSV tends to circulate earlier than the flu, so you want to make sure you've got that in your system cooking so that it can fight whatever comes along. RSV is a common respiratory virus that usually causes mild cold-like symptoms. It is spread through direct contact with the virus, such as droplets from another person's cough or sneeze, contacting your eyes, nose, or mouth. It can also be spread by touching a surface that has a virus on it, like a doorknob, and then touching your face before you've washed your hands. RSV can cause illness in people of all ages, but it may be especially serious for infants and older adults. Infants and older adults with chronic medical conditions like heart or lung disease, weakened immune systems, or who live in nursing homes or long-term care facilities are at a higher risk of serious illness and complications from RSV. Symptoms of RSV infections can include runny nose, decrease in appetite, coughing, sneezing, fever, or wheezing. Most people recover in a week or two, but RSV can be serious, resulting in shortness of breath and low oxygen levels. RSV may also lead to worsening of other medical conditions such as asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, which is a chronic disease of the lungs that makes it hard to breathe, or congestive heart failure, CHF, when the heart can't pump enough blood and oxygen through the body. Older adults and infants who get very sick from RSV may need to be hospitalized and could die. Regarding infants, there is no RSV vaccine for them. Children under 8 months and some who are older can receive an advanced antibody treatment to prevent severe illness, but ask your pediatrician about that. So the next vaccine that we see in the fall is influenza or the flu. The flu officially kills about 35,000 Americans in a typical year, but it could be even higher. The flu also weakens the body in ways that make heart attacks and strokes more common, especially in older adults. The flu's toll may be lower if more people got a vaccine, but in recent years, less than half of all Americans have done so. In the old days, before there were flu vaccines, they would say, this isn't me, but the saying was that the flu was the old man's friend, meaning that somebody who is of advanced age and very, very sick, they got the flu, they would die, and thus be the end of their suffering. And if you don't get your vaccine, that's the risk that you're running. This flu vaccine shots are available now, but you might want to wait until late September or October to get one. The heaviest parts of flu season tend to occur between December and February. If you wait, the vaccine's protection against serious illness will still be near its stronger level during those months. Now, how do you know if you have the flu as opposed to having just a common cold? So there's a graphic that the CDC puts out that Sandy's going to put in the show notes that shows the difference between the two. But the symptoms of the flu can include fever or fever and chills, cough, sore throat, runny or stuffy nose, muscles or body aches, headaches, and tiredness. Cold symptoms are usually milder than the symptoms of flu and generally do not result in serious health problems. And last but not least, COVID. COVID. Just when we thought it was safe to go back in the water, COVID has mutated once again. The BA.286 variant, unofficially called Parola, may be a cause for concern as it's a newly designated, highly mutated variant of Omicron, which triggered a surge in cases in several countries, including the United States. The new variant has more than 30 mutations in its spike protein, which is located on the outer surface of the coronavirus, which helps it enter and infect human cells. So if you've watched the news of late, you see that hospitalizations are rising, the number of people infected are rising, the number of deaths are rising. But the real serious issues are for those that are not vaccinated. So if you're vaccinated and you've had your boosters, you can still get COVID, but your symptoms will be are typically relatively mild and don't result in hospitalizations or death. If you haven't been vaccinated, then those are the people that you see that are going to the hospitals. The best defense against COVID has not changed. Vaccines and post-infection treatments. They're especially important for older adults and those that are immunocompromised. The federal government is on track to approve updated COVID vaccines designed to combat recent variants this month. Once it does, all adults should consider getting a booster shot. Many Americans have now gone more than a year without one, and the immunity has waned. While it's true that severe COVID is rare in people under 50, especially if they've received a vaccine shot or have had the virus, and nearly all Americans fall into one or both categories, but COVID can still be nasty even if it doesn't put you in the hospital. A booster shot will reduce its potency. Children that are over 6 months of age should also get a COVID shot this fall, even though their own COVID risk is very low. The purpose of this is to prevent the spread of COVID to older adults in their lives, which could prove to be deadly. A good strategy for many people may be to get their COVID booster and their flu shot at the same time in late September or October. And if you're older and you get COVID, talk to your healthcare practitioner about Paxlovid, which can make a big difference in your outcome. But the important thing is not when you get these 3 vaccines, but rather that you do get them. Your life may depend on their protection. Any questions about that, Charlie?
No.
I love the sigh. Oh, she said COVID again.
It's actually no. I was sighing because I don't know when, and recently, yeah. I just got into a conversation with a few people, and it was this kind of fatigue. It's like, oh my God, again, I have to get another COVID shot, and it and I pointed out, we had all had our COVID shots, and, everyone had boosters. And I said, okay, you don't need a new vaccine. We just need to get a new booster. And, and to your point about, not now, but wait until, late October, November, before, the season, the flu and COVID season really kicks in. But the thing of it is, I live in New York, and, if you take that subway regularly, or there are so many now event thingies all over the city, dances and concerts and singing and just people just gathering. Yeah, you want this, you want this booster. And even if it's, some outdoor activity, if it is I try to avoid Times Square because there are, and please come and visit New York, leave your money and go home. But there are so many tourists there. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a tourist. It is just so inundated with people. If I have to spend time around Times Square going to a couple of different places, I wear a mask. I can't, it's like, the Thanksgiving Day parade there every day. Oh, okay, my rant is finished. But yeah, protect yourself.
I was in the airport last week.
Yeah.
And there were these 2 young girls sitting on the other side of David, like playing something on their computers. And one of the girls, young, like maybe 12, 13 years old, she sneezed. And didn't cover her mouth, didn't sneeze into her elbow, just sneezed all over her computer.
Yeah.
And let me tell you that the mother in me and the nurse in me wanted to holler at her and say, sneeze into your elbow, cover your mouth. What the hell is wrong with you? And then I had to take a deep breath and remind myself that that would probably not be socially acceptable, but it just infuriated me. I can't tell you kind of the internal reaction I had to that. It's like, seriously, child?
I get it.
Seriously.
Yep. I get that. It's...
I wanted to go tell her mother, which was like, she was like maybe 4 seats down. I wanted to go say, your daughter just sneezed and didn't cover her mouth. And then I thought, no, you will be a crazy lady if you do that. But I'm just telling you, like, the inner dialogue that was going on inside me, it really made me mad.
You are talking to the choir. Yeah. So many people just
cover your mouth, everybody. Cover your mouth. Yeah. Sneeze into your elbow.
Yes.
Please.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm old now. Please.
Stop it. You're not old. We're getting older. You're not old.
Yeah, says you.
Yeah. Yeah, young, spry 65-year-old, 66. How old am I? 66. All right. Listen.
Aren't you 67?
Soon, Marianne. Very soon.
Oh, what's the date? I never remember.
No, I'm not going to tell you
October?
the date. Yes, October. Yes.
I know. That's why I always forget it. Because
that's
you never
right.
tell me when it is.
Excuse me. Yeah, you're. Can I say you're full of shit on the air? Oh, yes, I can. You're full of shit. How many times have I told you my birthday? And remember, no. This is and folks, this is kind of a charming thing. Almost every October, so Marianne will say, I'm forgetting something. And then it turns out it's
it's your birthday,
which I find very charming and endearing. So I look forward to. I know October is just a few weeks away. She'll forget. All right. So with
and he'll be 67. Girls.
I'll be 67.
And he's single.
Yes, I am.
And if they look at your pictures on our website, they will not be calling you. Because he sends the worst pictures possible.
Yes.
And Sandy says, what am I supposed to do with this? And I say,
excuse me. I sent, Sandy, really? I sent what, like 4 or 5? Even
crappy
I thought they were
pictures.
not that bad pictures.
One of them, you're in a coffin.
Right. Yeah.
One of them, you're in Hunters and you look like an old man.
But and no, but I have since then also sent.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sandy.
Well, I'll have to check. Did she update them?
I have no idea.
I don't either. I don't.
No. Yeah, no. So. I sent. I don't know, like 3 or 4. For lack of a better word, live pictures. Not a picture of a picture, but someone took a picture of me because she said, that's what she needed. So I sent those.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go and look. Everybody, let's all go to everyonedies.org. That's EVERY, the number onedies.org. Look on the tab, About Us, I think it's called, see if Charlie has nice pictures.
Yeah, I haven't checked that. Okay, I never check it. No, that's not true. I checked once.
Can you include pictures of Sergio? And I mean, people would like to go see that.
Your fascination with my brother is a little. Oh, wait a minute. There was when we all sent pictures of our of ourselves and our fathers. For some reason, you didn't pick the one with me and my father, but you did pick the one with my brother and my father. Actually, the picture of my brother, my father, and my mother.
Sandy picked it. I bet you she didn't know that wasn't you. Because why would you send a picture of your brother and your father when you were asked to send a picture of you and your father? She probably just assumed it was you.
Because I didn't have a clear photo. The one I really wanted, I couldn't find. And I didn't have a clear photo of one with just my dad and I. And I found it after I sent the one with my brother, my mom and dad.
I bet you she thought that was you.
The handsome hunk? Yeah, probably. I get that a lot. It's really tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. Yeah. Yeah.
Sergio in his youth was a handsome hunk.
Well, he ain't too shabby now, but yes, he was. He did have the movie star looks, very much so. Oh, there's this great one next to my mom. I should send that. He'll shoot me, though, if I do. So, okay, here we are. Where are we? Yeah.
You were going into the third half.
Our third
You're
half.
Tell us about love.
Yeah. Yes, our third half. We have a poem about love written by Fernando Reyes. Because in each other's eyes, you're always a star. It's the invisible safety net. No, it's the massive trampoline that springs you out of your shell into your wildest dreams. Love is the giddiness when she walks through the door, the ache you feel when you miss her to the core. Love brought us here, not just us two, but all of you. Compelled you to get on that 30-hour plane, to leave your kids at home, to get on that train, to give up this lovely house for us to entertain. Or maybe it wasn't, and you're here for the free, not even free champagne. But love is not just rainbows and butterflies as the movies portray. Love is not just the actions or even words you say. Love is looking for her keys. Again, whilst half an hour late, then rushing to the place just to find out she got the wrong date. It's saying you were wrong, even if technically wasn't really your mistake. Love's like the warmth of the sun on a freezing day. Love creates memories that you replay and replay. You see, my wife and I have been together for 9 years or so, from the first tender swipe, what feels like a long time ago. What a journey we would go on. Little did we know. Around the world, we've traveled near and laying on a rock in the New Zealand Alps, gazing at the stars, vomiting in India, wondering why on earth we ordered the beef medium rare on a beach. I can go on, but we don't have too much time to spare. So fast forward to 2 years ago when we made our vows to love each other for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Till death do us part. But recently I've learned that, yes, love brings joy, of course, but it lasts much longer than death do us part. It puts every infinity to shame because it seems so much more. Love is the G-force stomach knot of fear. When the doctor says it's stage 4, it's the dread you feel shaken to the core. It's the sadness of loss to come, the terror of grief. I've learned that, too, is just love. On its twist upside down course, because love is beguiling. It does funny things. It makes us laugh, cry, shout. It tugs at our heartstrings. But know that love is the reason we are all here. So let's collect these memories like souvenirs before the party ends and we all disappear. Because to live a life without love is not really a life worth living. So love with all your heart, no matter what. Just find something or someone to love a lot. For me, it's you. So thanks for giving me a shot at loving you, no matter what. Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. And stay tuned for the continuing saga of Everyone Dies. This is Charlie Navarrete. And from Dr. John McGeorge, a woman has as much better chance than a man of acquittal on a murder charge. Of course, if she happens to be blonde, her chances rise about 45%.
And I'm Marianne Matzo, and we'll see you next week. Please consider getting your vaccines. And remember, every day is a gift.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.